What is up, guys? Welcome to the top 10 Arrowverse moments of the week, episode 22. So this week included 4 episodes from 4 different shows, obviously one from each, and that's a rare thing. We haven't seen that in a while, apart from last week, so it seems like that's a recurring thing now, except this is probably the last episode. This is actually definitely the last week that we will ever have a 4 shows in this season, because this week had the season finale of Black Lightning, which was season 1, episode 13, titled, which is actually a pretty cool title, Shadow of Death. We don't usually see cool titles for Black Lightning, but then in the beginning of the week there was Supergirl season 3 episode 14 titled Shot Through the Heart, and then there was The Flash season 4 episode 18 titled Lose Yourself, and Arrow season 6 episode 19 titled The Dragon. So with that in mind, let's go over the top 10 Arrowverse moments of the week. Number 10 is the scene at the end of The Flash where Neil Sandilands returns as DeVoe. It's a scene where DeVoe uses Ralph's shape-shifting abilities to look like himself again. The reason this is such a great moment is because this has actually been bogging down the season a little bit. Ever since DeVoe killed himself, really, and had his other body die, and he went into other actors' bodies, other characters' bodies, it just hasn't been the same. None of those other actors or actresses really lived up to what DeVoe was for the first 9 episodes. The first 9 episodes, as Neil Sandilands, as himself, he was a great villain. But then he went into other people's bodies, and he wasn't. But now that he's back, I think that the rest of the season could be as good as the first 9 episodes because DeVoe is back. So that's the reason this moment was so good. It's also a moment that I was calling for a while. Ever since he went into another person's body, or really ever since it was revealed that Ralph can shapeshift, I said there's no way that this isn't gonna happen. I was thinking like there might be a way for DeVoe to get Ralph's powers without killing him, but it turns out that didn't happen. But I think there's a way around it still. But either way, this is a great scene because it brings Neil Sandilands back to the show. Number 9 is the Black Siren and the Dragon fight scene on Arrow. It's a fight scene where they're going to get that Quadrant member who has been snitching on the Quadrant for the Quadrant. And this is a cool fight scene, one, because it was really well choreographed. It was cool. It was a great fight scene. It was great. But the main reason is because it finally showed how badass the Dragon could be. Up until now, we've seen him fight Diggle, where he was evenly matched, which is stupid because he's supposed to be one of the best fighters in the DC universe. And then the second one, when he fought Thea, and I'm pretty sure he won, but Thea still put up a fight, which is also stupid because he's supposed to be one of the best fighters in the DC universe. It wasn't until this episode where we really saw how badass he can actually be, although to an extent, because he's not as badass as he is in the comics, and it's always also only with a gun. But this was the first fight scene where we actually saw him fight well, like as far as I can remember, like where it doesn't make him look like of a lesser main villain, because he was great. He was taking out guys left and right with his gun and using it in ways like in a fight style sort of way. So this fight scene, even though it's only at number 9 on the list, it's only on the list because it makes the Dragon slightly more badass, and for the first time we see him actually fight competently. At least not competently, I mean it's the first time we see him fight where he's actually really great at it instead of just being good at it, and it makes him more of a threatening villain. So I really hope we see more of that in the later season, and it seems like we are in the next episode of Arrow. Number 8 is the Legion's true mission revealed on Supergirl. So this reveal of the Legion's true mission was the big reason I was dreading the 2-month break that the show was going on after episode 13, because I really wanted to find out what the true mission was, and we did. We found out what the true mission was in this episode, and it was a slightly underwhelming mission, but it was still pretty cool nonetheless. The fact that they came back on purpose was true, which is something that I called, and the fact that it was the blight, that the blight evolves from pestilence, that was a cool thing as well. So this reveal of the Legion's true mission, even though it was slightly underwhelming because I thought maybe they'd come back to either like save Supergirl from the world killers, or maybe kill Supergirl because she becomes a world killer or something like that. But it is nonetheless still a cool reveal, so it's on the list. Number 7 is the only moment from Black Lightning this week, just because even though it was the season finale, I didn't think it was that great of an episode. But the moment on this at number 7 is when Jennifer is like recharges Jefferson. It was after Jefferson was hit in the chest by Painkiller, and then by Khalil, who goes by Painkiller now, and then he was knocked out, and then when he woke up he didn't have powers anymore, and the way he got his powers back was with Jennifer like charged at him, and then she glue, and there was like electricity coming out all over her, and then she tackled Jefferson, and then that recharged him. That was actually a pretty cool scene. Just that's it. It was just a really cool scene. There's really not much to add to it. Number 6 is the fight scene between the Flash and the elongated man. Despite the fact that this was very short and Barry took Ralph out in one punch, it made sense because Barry is a lot more experienced and he's a lot more powerful as far as we know, so it definitely makes sense that he took him out so easily, but everything else was actually really great. The CGI for the Flash and the elongated man in this scene just looked really cool. It just, like, the Flash's colors, and like I love it in season 4 so far when they had like the colors around the Flash, especially in episode 15, and this scene had that when the Flash was running up the wall, or like kicked off the wall and then punched the elongated man in the face. It just looked really cool, and this whole fight scene was like built up throughout the episode really well. So when it came to the fight scene, and then when it came to the scene between Ralph and Barry, which is later on the list, the tension was higher because the episode was building up to it, which is why this fight scene is actually a really good fight scene. So number 5 is actually a tie between two different moments from this week, where one of the superheroes fights a T-Rex, but it's not a real T-Rex. It's either a statue T-Rex or a toy T-Rex, but like a bigger version of that. And that's crazy that two different episodes from this week had something like that. But the Flash had elongated man fighting the T-Rex statue, which was animated by DeVoe using the Black Bison's powers, and then Mon-El fighting the T-Rex, which was created by the new Toyman. So both these fight scenes were great. It's just crazy that there were two T-Rex fight scenes in this week. Neither of them were better than the other, so they were both tied at number 5. It was just, both of them looked really cool. Both of them had really cool CGI, and Mon-El's version really led to the mention of his new costume, which looks awesome. Elongated man's version didn't really lean to anything, but it was just cool. He was running from the T-Rex, and then he elongated his legs, for lack of a better word, and was running, and then he punched it, which it was just a cool fight scene. Mon-El using his cape was also really cool, and especially since, like, usually Superman and Supergirl's capes are really useless, and Mon-El using it here is, like, for practical use, is actually really cool, and hopefully we see that more on the show, because that would be really cool to see. But both these moments, it's crazy that both these moments happened in the same week. Number 4 is actually a moment that I feel weird putting on this list as like great moments, and the same thing with number 3, because this moment on number 4 is really brutal and really not a great moment in the slightest. It's just a really brutal scene, and it makes one of the characters look more really evil in another one. What I'm talking about is the scene where Diaz burns his childhood bully Jesse alive. It's not a moment I want to put on this list, but like it was so brutal. First of all, it made Diaz look much more, not really badass, but more evil in this respect, and made him more of an intense villain, and also made Black Siren kind of have second thoughts about working with Diaz. So all in all, it was a pretty great scene because of it. And also, like, the whole storyline of this episode of him being hunted by Jesse in the past, and then that concluded with this scene. That whole storyline worked really well because of the scene, and it was just a really, really brutal scene. So I thought I didn't put it at number 1 because it's not really an amazing scene or anything, but it just it serves to better the show just because it makes Diaz more intense. And it also concluded this storyline with him in this episode really well, and it made Black Siren consider switching sides or not working with Diaz anymore. So I put it at number 4 on the list. Number 3 is another scene that I'm really torn about, and this scene is Ralph's death scene on The Flash. So this death scene really I was not expecting it, but it really worked really well. Even if it's permanent, then it definitely did not work for the show. But if it's temporary, if it's just till the end of the season, it'll come back in the season finale or the episode before that, then I think it definitely worked really well, at least in this episode, just because the way it was built up throughout the episode, with Barry telling him he can't kill the Thinker, like I said earlier, and then him not killing the Thinker, and because of it he died, or at least is presumably killed. Just the way they built it up was done really well. And then the actual scene of DeVoe killing him, taking over his body, was kind of emotional. Like, it wasn't emotional in the moment, but the more I think about it, the more I think if he's actually dead, then I'd be so sad, and I think it's one of the most, like, one of the saddest death scenes in the Arrowverse. But I just watched it and I thought, there's no way he's dead, so I didn't really feel anything. If he is dead, like, when I thought about it though, I felt a lot. So this death scene actually worked really well, and it's actually, if it sticks, then it's one of the saddest death scenes in the Arrowverse, which is why I really hope it does not stick. Number 2 is the scene where Winn is arguing with his mother on Supergirl. This is purely on the list because of Jeremy Jordan's acting in this episode, in this scene. He was great. That's it. There's really not much to add to it, because even the other actress wasn't that great in the scene. Like, I know she's a Academy Award nominee, but I don't know why in this episode she wasn't that great, and in this scene particularly, she was just completely overshadowed by Jeremy Jordan, who plays Winn, just because he was so great in this scene. Maybe it's because I just got more used to the actor. Maybe it's just because, like, the writing was just more suited to him. I don't really know, but he completely overshadowed his mother in terms of acting in this scene, and it was just a really great emotional scene from the episode. And number 1 is Ralph and Barry's scene on The Flash. So this is the scene I'm talking about, is when Barry just defeated Ralph in the fight scene, and then Ralph woke up, and then he completely, like, poured his heart out to Barry, saying how, except for his mother, the Team Flash is the only family he's ever had, and DeVoe can't have them, and the fact that he's not really scared for himself, he's scared for the others. That was a great scene. Like I said earlier in the video, these two actors, Grant Gustin and Harley Sawyer, really bring out the most in each other, because every single scene where Ralph has a great moment of acting from Harley Sawyer is Barry is in the room with him. And not the same thing with Barry, because we've seen it before, but like the same thing with Barry and Ralph just bring out the most in each other. I mean, not Barry and Ralph, Harley Sawyer and Grant Gustin, and this scene is one of the best examples of that, especially from Harley Sawyer, the guy who plays Ralph Dibny. He was great in this scene, and it's just one of my favorite moments from him, and it just makes me even more sad if number 3 on the list actually sticks and his death is permanent. I would be so sad, because I really want more scenes like this one, more scenes like the one where he fights the T-Rex, more scenes where like the one where he fights the Flash, and more scenes like the one where like all of the scenes on the Flash. If he's actually dead, I'd honestly be so sad. Throughout the season, he's become one of my favorite superheroes in the Arrowverse. So if he's dead, count this portion of the video as a tribute to him. I will miss him, but if he's not dead, that would honestly be awesome. But anyway, let me know what your favorite moments from the week were in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want, follow me on Twitter for 2 things. 1, better notifications for my videos, because YouTube isn't really working, and 2, daily polls on the Arrowverse or all things TV show / movie superhero related. And thanks for watching.